It is 28 days till the man burns, and today we're talking about consent. You know, at Burning Man, there's a lot going on. It's a very different environment to what most people are used to. There's lots of freedom of expression and gifting and adventures to be had, and it's very easy to kind of get caught up in all of that and forget about consent. You know, maybe you're running around misting people and you're having a great time, and then you miss someone that didn't really want to be misted. Or you're giving out hugs and you're just running up to people and hugging them, but then you hug someone that, you know, really didn't want that to be happening. When people talk about consent, a lot of people's minds instantly jump to sexual situations and making sure that both or all parties are consenting to whatever is happening. But it isn't just about those kind of situations. Although obviously that is a very important scenario where you should be getting consent for, you know, whatever is going on. All parties should be consenting to everything. But there are all kinds of other times when you should be getting consent before doing things. You know, everything that you're doing is impacting people. If you are misting someone, you are impacting their day somehow. And chances are if you're doing that, you want to impact them in a positive way. You don't want it to be a negative experience for them. And making sure you have consent to do that ensures that it is a positive experience for them. And often it doesn't have to be this dramatic thing where you're stopping people and being like, do I have your consent to do this? You know, if you want to take a picture of someone, you should be getting their consent. And often, you know, you holding up a picture and doing this, they're either gonna nod at you or strike a pose, which lets you know, like, I'm consenting to you doing that. Or they're gonna be like, no. And then you know they are not giving you consent to do that. They don't want that to occur. And you know, if you feel like there's confusion, you're not sure if they're consenting or not, then it might be time to, you know, verbally ask them and say, hey, I'd like to take your picture, is that okay? And then you can get that verbal confirmation that they're like, yes, I am consenting, I am happy with that, like, take my picture, go for it. You know, there are so many things that you should be getting some kind of consent for and letting people make their own choices. You know, if you, for example, are giving out drinks and they've got alcohol in them, anyone that you give a drink to, you should be letting them know that that drink contains alcohol. Maybe they are teetotal. Maybe they are on some kind of medication where they shouldn't be drinking with it. Maybe they're a recovering alcoholic and they need to know that that has alcohol in it because they're trying to avoid it. You know, taking people's pictures or videos of them, gifting them things, spraying them with misters. You know, even things like if you meet someone and you're talking to them and you're just like chewing their ear off for hours and hours, you might want to at some point kind of give them an out and be like, oh hey, I realize that I'm just like taking up hours of your day just like really self-indulgently talking about myself. Feel free to go if you want to. Or attaching yourself to a group. Maybe you meet a group of people and you think they're really amazing and you decide, you know, I'm just going to spend the rest of my time hanging around with this group. Maybe I'll even move my camping gear into their camp. You probably want to get consent for that. Probably want to make sure that they're actually okay with that they want you hanging out with them all day, every day, that they want you to become part of their camp. And like I say, in many of these situations, you may not need to like stop the person and have a serious conversation to get that consent. But you know, getting consent in some way before you like impact someone's time at Burning Man is very important. Because if everyone's taking that moment to get consent, then everyone is going to have a better time. People will feel like they have a choice in the things that are happening to them. You know, all of these scenarios and any other that you can think of where you should be getting consent first, they can be amazing for the person on the receiving end of it if they want that. But if they don't, it can be a nightmare for them. Getting consent is such a simple thing, and it can avoid having someone feel like something is being forced on them, something that they don't really want to be happening is like happening kind of out of their control. So whatever it is that you are doing, make sure you are getting that consent so that you aren't impacting people negatively. But let's talk about the big ones where you really should be getting consent. So spiking or lacing or dosing, whatever you want to call it, giving someone drugs or alcohol without their knowledge. I'm not entirely sure if it's a criminal offense, but it's a terrible thing to do. And I know that for some people it's considered like a funny thing to do, like, oh, let's spike our campmate with some drugs because that would be really funny. But you're taking away that person's choice. You know, that person is choosing not to drink or not to take drugs, and that is their choice. They may have a very specific reason, like medication, they may have something from their past, or they may just choose not to do those things. They may just not like them and not want to do it. And aside from that, the person that you're doing it to doesn't know what's happening to them. It can be potentially dangerous or very confusing for the person that it's happening to. So even if you think like, oh, it's just, you know, it's all fun and games, we're just doing it like in a nice way, it's like funny, You're taking away someone's choice, and it's really not funny to do that. And doing it to someone that you don't know, someone that's a stranger that you are not going to be there to look after once you've done it, that's even worse, because if that person's a stranger to you and you're planning to like dose them and just send them off, if it's your campmate or friend, I'm assuming you have the intention to spend your time with them and actually make sure that they're okay. If it's a stranger, you don't know what's going to happen to them once they wander off somewhere. Sexual consent is another one that is huge. You really, really should be getting consent for any sexual activity that's going on, and silence is not consent. I kind of feel like that should be a common sense thing that everybody knows anyway, but just in case you don't, silence is not consent. Be aware of people's current state as well. If they are incredibly drunk or they've taken loads of drugs, they may not be in a position where they're actually able to give consent. Even if they are verbally giving you consent, even if they seem to be really into whatever is happening, they might not be in the state of mind to be able to make rational decisions. Alcohol and drugs lower people's inhibitions, so sure, when they are in that state where they can't think clearly, yeah, they might seem like they're really into it and they're fine, but in the morning when that's worn off, they might not be fine. They might feel like they have been taken advantage of. If you meet someone that is in a total state and you are into them and you kind of want more intimate things to happen with them, then wait until they're sober, arrange to meet up with them again when they are not in such a state, so that they are able to make that choice when they have the presence of mind to be able to do so. This goes for everything, hugging, kissing, touching, anything like that. If the person is inebriated, and even if the person's completely sober, you still should be getting consent for, hugging and kissing and touching, like whatever it is you're doing. If it has a sexual nature, you need to make sure that whoever is involved is consenting and happy with what is going on. This is extra important if the person is nude, whether you are nude or someone else is nude. Nudity can kind of bring its own kind of special set of circumstances. And it's important to make sure that people's boundaries are being respected, whether they're clothed or not. But when someone's nude, their boundaries might be a bit higher than when they are clothed. When they're wearing clothes, maybe they're happy to go around hugging people, but when they're nude, they don't really want to do that. They want to kind of keep that distance between their bodies and other people's. Plus, if you do find yourself getting intimate with someone that is nude, then it might be slightly more difficult. If you're kind of having a kiss and stuff, there's more places for your hands to go that maybe wouldn't be appropriate because that person's nude. It would take it very fast to a different level of intimacy compared to if they were clothed. Being nude is not an invitation for people to touch, and it's not a sign of, sexual promiscuity. Going out nude is not a way to announce to everyone around you hey, I am looking for someone to touch me or to do things with me. It's just an outfit choice like any other outfit out there. We are all part of a community at Burning Man, and one of the things I love is how much people kind of look out for each other in tough situations. So if you see something happening that, is maybe taking away that right to consent from someone, if you see someone trying to dose someone's drink, if you see someone, inebriated and they seem to be getting taken advantage of, then, step in and just kind of make sure that everything's okay. Make sure that person whose drink's just been dosed is aware, hey, they just put something in your drink. Or that super drunk girl that seems to be getting harassed by a guy, that she actually knows that guy and they're friends and she's okay with the situation. Or, maybe if she needs a little bit of help. If you see someone trying to take pictures of people without their knowledge, step in, let them know that that situation is going on. Remember that consent is a one-time deal as well. Just because someone's given you consent for something at a moment in time, it doesn't mean that that consent then carries over to the whole rest of your time at Burning Man. If someone asks to take your picture and you give consent, you're giving them consent for that moment in time for that picture. You're not giving consent for in 2 days when they see you somewhere else for them then to take your picture then. That's, a new situation, a new scenario. Likewise with sexual situations, you might meet someone and, share an intimate experience with them. That doesn't mean that when you see them a couple of days later, that consent still applies. It's a different day. Maybe they're not into it that day. Or maybe their boundaries of what they are and they aren't okay with have changed. The big thing with consent is that it makes people feel like they're in this nice, safe environment. That no one is going to be trying to do things to them without getting that consent first. And that whatever does happen to them, they have a choice. So before you do anything that could impact someone else's day, then, make sure you are getting that consent first. So I hope this was helpful, guys. If any of the rest of you have any thoughts about consent or tips and tricks, then let us know in the comments below. And if you see me at Burning Man this year, feel free to come and say hi to me. Bye, guys.